G'day, welcome to 5 Minutes at 5 with Gavin, myself. Well, today I've been pondering about change. We put a lot of things in place in our life, a lot of systems to not let change happen. We love routine, and over the last couple of weeks, boy have we had some changes. Today I went to Coles to do some shopping, and Coles has physically changed the way I shop. I have to walk through gates and wash hands, and all of this creates anxiety in our life. And for some of us, we feel this anxiety differently. Sometimes our fuse is a lot shorter and we snap at people. For others, we feel it physically on our bodies. We increase sweat. Others, we feel it in our gut. For others, we would just want to cut off and just shut off from the world. When I worked in a prison, I often met guys that would sleep their sentence away. Just avoid everything. We often have these things that happen when we have increased anxiety. I really want to say to you, if you're feeling anxious, it's normal, particularly in this crisis situation. This is a crisis, and there's a large amount of change that has happened. And so our anxiety has increased. It's okay. It's okay to be feeling those things. But the wonderful thing is that we have an opportunity to reflect on how we're responding to this change. Because I suspect that some of the things that are going off for you go off for you when other things are happening in less crisis situations. Maybe when there's a conflict in your relationships, or when things are happening at work. I wonder, are we pretty consistent in what is going on? Well, as I look at the Bible and reflect on the Bible and change, I think it actually has some other things to say to us as well. There's a great story, and it's right at the beginning, where Adam and Eve are told to have this relationship, or they can have this relationship with God. And they say, God says, don't eat from this particular tree, don't eat this. And they do, and they eat from it, and it changes everything. It changes the outlook of how they see the world. And their response is to hide. And it says that in the evening, God would walk in the garden and meet with Adam and Eve. But after this change has happened, they have withdrawn. They are hiding from him, and they don't want to talk to him. And he says, where are you? Where are you? And yet there's this fear that has happened for Adam and Eve. Well, skip a couple of thousand years ahead to when Jesus is going to the cross. Remember, we're in the Easter period. We're getting close to when Jesus dies on the cross. And he talks to Peter, and he says to Peter, Peter, you're going to betray me. This is a crisis situation. A whole lot is changing. A whole lot of things are going on in this week of where Jesus is in Jerusalem with his disciples. And as Jesus is being put on trial, Peter is given an opportunity to stand up with Jesus, and yet he betrays him. You know, every time there is an encounter with something like an angel or God in the Bible, the first response is fear. And the very first thing that the angels or God or Jesus says to that person is, do not be afraid. God understands that in these changing times, in these chaotic times, that there is uncertainty and there's fear that rises, anxiety that rises. And he says to us, do not be afraid. The wonderful story about Peter, and I think it's true for all of us, is after Jesus has died and risen again, there's this picture where he's by the Sea of Galilee, and he comes and he makes a breakfast, a little campfire, and he makes a breakfast with Peter, and he sits with him. And he says, Peter, do you love me? No, Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? And Jesus restores Peter after that moment where he has betrayed, where in that chaos, in that change, fear has risen, anxiety has risen. And Jesus says, do you love me? He restores him. And that's the posture of God in our life. He says, do not be afraid. And he invites us, he says, where are you? I wonder, where are you at the moment? What's happening for you here and here? What's happening in here Are you hiding? Or are you moving towards God? Well, whatever's happening is normal. But I wonder what could be. Well, that's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow. See you later. Bye.